Hi everyone, I'm Lilledeshan Bose, writer, editor, and daughter of artist Santiago Bose. Welcome to Cultural Cash Online. Today I'm honored to share the story behind one of my father's seminal works in the Cultural Center of the Philippines 21st Century Art Museum Collection, An Afternoon in Sampaloc Lake, painted in 1976. This piece isn't just about a single lake in Laguna. It's a window into how Santi saw the Philippines and how he shaped his identity as an artist at the crossroads of tradition and experimentation. To understand Sampaloc Lake, we need to start in Baguio City. My father was born and raised there, a place shaped by the Cordilleras Igorot, Ibaloi, and Kankanaey communities, and later by the American colonial rule through Camp John Hay. Growing up surrounded by folk art that his mother sold at the local market, Santi was immersed in indigenous symbols and rituals, but he also lived under the lingering shadow of colonial structures. And this tension fueled his lifelong artistic philosophy to challenge Western standards while rooting himself in local culture. When he left Baguio to study at the University of the Philippines in Diliman, he learned traditional mediums, oil, watercolor, photography, but he was never content to stay within the lines. Alongside friends active in the First Quarter Storm, he was politically awakened on the cusp of martial law. This awareness shaped his belief that art should resist the status quo, but not always overtly. Photography became his first gateway to seeing the world differently. He learned to frame reality in fragments, layer meaning, and bend technique to his message. If there's one word for Santi's artistic approach, it's experimentation. He pioneered using accessible and even humble materials: volcanic ash after Mount Pinatubo's eruption, bamboo, driftwood, old paper bills, estampitas, and bottles, objects infused with the everyday Filipino experience. Instead of store-bought canvases, he salvaged old doors and windows from second-hand stores in Dangwa, sometimes for just 20 or 30 pesos each. An Afternoon in Sampaloc Lake was one such work, painted on a reclaimed door. For Santi, these architectural pieces weren't just cheap surfaces. They were portals. A door became a literal and symbolic passage to other dimensions of memory, identity, and imagination. Santi was deeply inspired by Aldous Huxley's Doors of Perception. In his work, a door's frame was not a boundary, but an invitation to see beyond. Using photo transfer techniques, he layered images, snapshots of our family, old Baguio, and everyday Filipino life, onto these found objects. He painstakingly lifted printed ink using acrylic emulsion, then embedded these fragile photographic fragments onto textured gesso backgrounds. His palette leaned toward earthy, monochromatic tones, letting the subject and not the paint dominate. Expressionistic brushstrokes gave his works energy, while carefully placed trampolil details like drops of blood in the relief pulled viewers into the deeper story. Nothing was accidental. Every crack in the wood, every image, every frame within a frame was part of his vision to blur boundaries between past and present, foreign and native, personal and collective. It's important to remember that this painting emerged during martial law. Many artists face censorship or persecution for overt political dissent, and Santi's resistance lay in subtlety. He created imagined escape routes through dreamscapes and local landscapes. Sampaloc Lake was also personal. My father would visit there with his cousin Walter while researching spiritual healers in Mount Banahaw. The lake became a peaceful respite, and in the painting, a site where memory, nature, and ritual converge. While many artists romanticized indigenous culture, Santi didn't. He saw art as an advocacy, a mirror to hold up the struggles of the marginalized, making the invisible visible. His work juxtaposed colonial and indigenous imagery, exposing the contradictions in our national identity. And his boldest subversion was that he turned economic necessity into critique. Who says you need expensive imported paints? Who says your canvas must be white linen? To him, the overlooked, an old door, a forgotten photo, held extraordinary power. The success of his early shows, which Sampaloc Lake was a part of, proved there was an audience for this radical approach. They sold out. This gave my father the confidence to leave his job in Manila, move our family back to Baguio, and commit fully to his art. In this way, his practice was never just about materials or technique. It was about cultural memory, storytelling, and the belief that art could open doors, literally and figuratively, for generations to come. Today, An Afternoon in Sampaloc Lake stands not only as a seminal work, but as a testament to his radical vision. It reminds us that Filipino art can be rooted in place, drawn from the margins, and yet resonate with universal questions about identity, freedom, and imagination. Santiago Bose's work continues to inspire artists to push beyond this frame, to look at what lies hidden in the everyday, and to turn windows and doors into portals for seeing who we really are. Thank you for joining me today on Cultural Cash Online. I hope this glimpse into my father's work encourages you to look closer, see beyond, and keep our cultural memory alive.